North Las Vegas City Council welcomes you to its virtual City Council meeting. There are two public forums set aside for public comment, one at the beginning of the meeting and one at the end. When I call upon you to speak, I request that you limit your comments no more than 3 minutes and we avoid repetition. Madam City Clerk, are we in compliance with an open meeting law, the Nevada open meeting law?
Mayor, yes, we are in compliance.
Great. Tonight we have the opportunity, though we're going to virtually here, we're going to continue on with the invocation given by Mayor Pro Tem Scott Black, all over the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman Goins Brown. Please stand. Okay. Our Father in heaven, we're very grateful for this opportunity that we have to gather. We're grateful for the peace in which we live at this time and pray for continued peace in our community. We pray for those in need within the city of North Las Vegas, that their needs can be met, that they can be uplifted. We're grateful for the leadership that we have within our city and those city employees who dedicate themselves to the residents of our city. Pray for guidance and direction as we make decisions, that we may do so for the betterment of those that are in our community and that we may serve and lead by example. And I offer this prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Council. I appreciate that. Since we're having a viral meeting this evening, we're not going to have council items tonight. That's great things happening within your community of interest there in your wards. So we're going to pass that and go into public forum. Moving on to public forum, this is a time set aside to comment on posted agenda items. A public forum excludes discussions of public hearing items, which will be heard later. Madam City Clerk, do we have anyone on the line who would like to speak on posted agenda items right now?
Mayor Lee, we do not have anyone on the phone. We do have the written comments that I provided to you from the 15 employees for the casino items 3 and 4. They were requesting, the city request 2-year recall rights for them, and that's all the written comments that we have.
Okay, thank you very much. We will then, since no one's on the phone, we will close the public forum right now. Move to the agenda.
Item 1, approved City Council regular meeting agenda of July 1, 2020. Mayor and Council, the only change to the agenda was that we were asking that item 20 be withdrawn. And with that change, staff recommends approval of the agenda as amended.
Thank you. So item 20 withdrawn. The chair will take a motion. Any comments or discussions before that? Seeing none, the chair will take a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Mayor,
move for approval of the agenda. We got 3 of you. All right, thank you.
Mayor, who was
Richard? I heard Richard first.
Thank you.
Okay. Age before beauty. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Mayor and Council, the consent agenda consists of items 2 through 17, and it's our recommendation to approve as published.
Thank you. Council, any comments, questions? Not the chair will take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Please cast your vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
It's unanimous.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you, Council. It's unanimous, Catherine. Moving on to public hearings.
Item 18, ratify the International Association of Firefighters Local 1607 collective bargaining agreements for non-supervisors and supervisors for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. Mayor and Council, by law, I'm required to provide a presentation on the fiscal impact of this collective bargaining agreement. First, I just want to thank our IAFF for their work. President Romy he started meeting with all the unions together as soon as the pandemic hit, really. I think it was the first week after. And we've been working with the fire, with President Romy's team. We had several meetings with them. City Attorney Moore and I went over to Fire Admin Building, met with their entire board, answered their questions, help them understand the economic conditions that we have and the reason for us to just work together on an agreement and get through this time so we can focus on providing services to the residents. And then this is a one-year agreement, so come next year we'll be able to sit down with a little bit better understanding of the total economic impact of the pandemic and have a better idea of where we're at to make sure that we're able to continue providing services for the residents. The financial update really, as far as the pandemic is concerned, hasn't really changed a lot. We are still have various forms of statewide closures. In fact, there's concern with the current spike and what's not even a second wave, but apparently just the tail end of the first wave, that we might even have to have some businesses close back down. So we're seeing still a tremendous impact on our businesses as far as C-Tax goes, which is a major funding source for us. March was down 23% from prior year. April was down 39% year over year. We expect that May is going to be over 40% down. And just note, C-Tax is important because it's the largest revenue source for the general fund, and this drop in revenue really impacts our operation and impacts our ability to provide services to residents. We recently received updated revenue projections from the local government finance working group. Relative to early estimates, numbers have improved modestly due to some businesses being able to open sooner than originally projected. Sales were a lot heavier than what was expected, so we're picking up higher sales. Unfortunately, a lot of that's just from people not necessarily just stocking toilet paper and things, but people purchasing more than what they needed. So that's something that we got a bump from, but it's going to even out as their purchases decrease during the summer months. Despite these improvements, we're still estimating a revenue shortfall and projections of $82 million. Now, if you remember, this is improved from when we had budget conversations with council before. We were projecting a $107 million deficit, so it has improved somewhat to now we're looking at about an $82 million deficit. So it's getting better, but that's still over a 2-year period. That's tremendous, and that's a big deficit. And of course, adding to that deficit is the fact that we've had to put out over $5 million in face masks and signs and overtime and just direct COVID type things. And that's one of the reasons why we're pushing so hard for the CARES dollars, so we can recoup and be paid for those dollars, because we had to take money from other areas of the budget in order to pay for those unintended and unbudgeted expenses. In response to the upcoming fiscal crisis, as I let this body know before, we've postponed, canceled numerous projects. We have a soft hiring freeze that's still going on. As a result, we're expected to end the fiscal year with approximately 3 months of expenses in the general fund. Ending balance, please note that there's modest growth in reserves as a direct result of not filling essential positions. So our ability to close the gap in making up for the deficit in the budget is really being borne by our residents, because they will see a decrease in services because we're doing it by not filling positions that have become vacant. And so that's not ideal. That's not something that we want to continue doing, but it is a reduction in services to the community. Our primary concern at this time is with the long-term viability of our tax base. With unemployment continuing to be north of 23%. Today, Forbes had that we're the highest metropolitan regions. We have the highest unemployment in the nation. And we're seeing it's worse than the Great Recession. A long time to go. So once again, that's another reason why it's so important that we get the CARES dollars to help us soften that trough a little bit, to help us inject resources for our private sector businesses to be able to get the kind of assistance that they need to just stay around, stay in the game, so that when things open back up, they're there. We are seeing a huge impact to them. And for these reasons, these uncertainties, the of revenues coming in that we had projected in our budget, the uncertainty of revenues moving forward. That's why it was so important that we worked with these collective bargaining groups to close this revenue gap. With that said, I think that the financial impact for the CBAs is, and for this IFS 1607 collective bargaining agreement, we currently spend approximately $26.6 million in salaries and benefits for IAFF. Employees, in this proposed agreement, does not include any COLAs. Merits are estimated to be $430,000 for fiscal year 2021. But what this MOU does and what the changes, so the MOU in 19, in item number 19, and the changes that are in the collective bargaining agreement, it allows us to have a lot more control on the overtime. And so there's a little over $3 million a year that's spent in overtime in fire. And with the changes now that the union has agreed to in the contract, we're able to significantly reduce that to bring savings to the residents. I don't know, that's kind of basically my presentation. I want to thank once again President Romy and his team and the board for working with us, and our employees for understanding and recognizing the tremendous challenge facing our community right now. And I think this is an agreement that reflects that uncertainty and gives management some control to cut costs and save money, while at the same time accomplishing Mayor and Council's goal to do whatever we could to not impact our employees and add to the economic challenges that are going on in our neighborhood and in our community. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Councilor, any comments or questions? That is for 18 and 19. That was your presentation. Okay.
Presentations for both of them.
All right, both of them. Council, well, let me open this to public comment. It's Catherine, Madam City Clerk. Is there anyone on the phone that would like to discuss item 18?
Mayor, we have had no public comment written or on the phone for an item 18.
Okay, I appreciate you there. So we will close the public comment. Council, any comments or questions that you would like to make at this time?
Mayor, yes, if I could speak up here a little bit. This is Councilman Barone.
Okay, you recognized.
Yes, Mr. City Manager, I'd like you to extend my sincere wishes to our friends who provide, they're such important first responders, our firemen. Early on, when the COVID-19 crisis appeared, it was, thin blue and a thin red line who was, they were there on the forefront. Quite frankly, not only with their lives, but their well-being of their families as well. And they did it unflinchingly, did it with bravery, and, we saw our spring into action and provided literally, 5,000 sets of PPE equipment to the nursing home right here in Ward 1. Right when there was a nursing home explosion across the valley, many of the early victims of COVID-19 were in the nursing homes. That was actually averted, the swift action of our firemen. And I really want to commend them not only for being there, for being our heroes, but also being heroes in this, working with the city to have our physical security, which will translate in having security for the entire city. And, that takes a lot of guts. That takes a lot of, from the newest rookies all the way through to our fire chief, and, of course, with, the President Craig Romy. And I'd like you to please extend my sincere best wishes and thanks for making this accord possible. And with that, I think I've said enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the council would like to make any comments? So I'll make one. I just want to actually, Ryan, your team has done a great job with the firefighters, to be commended, that's for sure. But the exciting thing to me is that the council has took on this diversification to strengthen ourselves in bad times. And whoever saw the COVID as a bad time when we were always considering gaming, tourism, and hospitality, but every single director that you have works and runs their little business, part of our company, successfully for our residents. And we're all working to diversify and strengthen. We didn't have to lay anybody off. We didn't have to cut any wages. This is the first time in a long time we've hit a troubled spot like this and been able to be probably stronger than anybody else in this community. And I want to thank you, the council, and everyone for all having the same vision. Michaela, what you're doing to fight to protect us and all of our legal things. We have a great team here, and our city is in a far better shape with this leadership than it was when, I think, 6 years ago. So I appreciate you, council. And with that, the chair will take a motion to ratify the agreement.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to ratify this agreement.
We have a motion. Please voice your vote. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
That's 5. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. It's passed. Moving to 19, we've already had the presentation. I think all the public comment was the same. Is that correct? Does anybody have anything to offer on this one?
Let me read it in real quick.
Okay.
Item number 19, ratify the Memorandum of Understanding, Air Resource MOU, and Training Captain MOU, amending the International Association of Firefighters Local 1607 Non-Supervisor and Supervisor Collective Bargaining Agreements for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Catherine, any calls on this item, number 19?
We do have a call, but it was a late call on 18. I can put it through.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, caller. State your name for the record.
Yes, hello. My name is Bill Gardner. I'm the Secretary-Treasurer of North Las Vegas Firefighters, IAFF Local 1607.
Welcome, Bill. What would you like to say to us?
Well, I just wanted to make myself available for any questions that the council might have regarding the contract extension that's up for ratification tonight. Other than that, I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity and just say that, we support the item. And I'm here if you guys have any questions with anything.
Thank you very much. It didn't seem like we did on 18, but I'll ask the council. Council, any comments or questions on item number 19?
Mayor, just let me make a mention, both item 18 and 19, that myself and we as a council very much respect and appreciate all that our firefighters and the leadership do for us over here. So it doesn't go unnoticed, and we thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Council. Thank you, Mr. Councilman. Appreciate it.
Yeah, please pass that on to everybody, the wonderful attention that you're getting here. We appreciate you so much. So
I want to thank Bill.
Thank you, Mayor.
I did ask Bill to get on the phone in case you guys had any questions, so I appreciate them getting on the phone. If you want to formally open public hearing, then close it.
I guess I must have missed it. I missed that. Opening public comment. Is anybody there, Catherine, for this besides Bill?
There's nobody on the phone, and there's no written comment.
Okay, I'll close the public comment and call for a motion to ratify the memorandums.
Move for approval of item number 19.
You got a motion? You got it. Council, we have a motion. Please cast your vote. Aye.
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 It's unanimous. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Bill, also. Appreciate you coming on with us.
No problem. Thank you, Mayor and Council. We appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Mayor, Council, note that the viewing audience, that item 20 was withdrawn. Item 21, conduct a public hearing to accept public comments and input from the Draft Housing and Urban Development 2020-2024 Consolidation Plan, 2020-2021 Annual Action Plan, and 2019-2020 Annual Action Plan, and amendment for Community Development Block Grant and Emergency Shelter Grant Funds.
Thank you. Mark or Rick, I understood we had Miss Maggie Tempore of Root Policy Research. Is that correct? Do we have somebody giving us a presentation today?
Yes, Mayor. Maggie Tempore is should be on the line to be able to give you a quick presentation on what this is about.
Thank you, Mark. Welcome, Ms. Tempore.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
like everyone's mentioned, my name is Neji. I'm working with Root Policy Research. We're currently under contract with the city to conduct your 5-year consolidated plan and annual action plan. You may remember me from past years. We've helped the city conduct their assessment of fair housing, their 2-year consolidated plan, and each prior year's annual action plan. This is the second consolidated plan for the city of North Las Vegas since becoming a HUD designated entitlement jurisdiction in 2018. This means that the city receives Community Development Block Grants, or CDBG, and Emergency Solutions Grant, or ESG, directly from HUD. So in previous years, you may remember the city was actually receiving those funds through Clark County, but now that they are their own entitlement jurisdiction, they receive those funds directly from HUD. As part of receiving these funds, the city is required to produce that consolidated plan that I mentioned, which covers a 2 to 5 year planning period, an annual action plan, which covers how the city intends to use those funds on an annual basis, and an analysis of impediments to fair housing choice, which this round was conducted at the regional level. So you may remember this AI was completed back in March with coordination with Clark County. So this year, the city will be receiving for CDBG almost $1.9 million in funding, and then for ESG almost $170,000. So this is aside from any CARES Act funding. While we are just coming to council right now to talk about the consolidated plan and annual action plan, this effort was actually started back in January. It coordinated with the Citizen Advisory Committee and their selection of certain activities that they wanted to fund. That mostly covered public service activities and activities funded by Emergency Solution Grant programs. I believe that council has already reviewed and approved all of those activities. So this isn't necessarily the first time that you guys are thinking about activities that are funded through the consolidated plan and annual action plan. But with COVID, unfortunately, this whole process was delayed. So we intended to go to council in April and submit that plan to HUD in May. But with COVID, HUD gave the city an extension to mid-July to submit the consolidated plan and annual action plan. So in the meantime, we have been going to the community and stakeholders and getting input. I may have mentioned this to a few of you, but there was an online resident and stakeholder survey. We received 165 responses, which was a pretty incredible response rate. We left it open for only 3 weeks at the end of February and early March. Most of those responses were actually residents. Again, a very impressive response rate. We also had interviews with stakeholders, city staff. There were community meetings held, coordinating with the Community Neighborhood Initiative Plan. And now we are having kind of the public hearing part of this work. Right now, we are actually in the 30-day public comment period, which started on June 10th and which will end on July 10th. This allows the public to submit both written and oral comments on the current proposed draft, which is what we are proposing today, to council. After that 30-day public comment period, the city will incorporate and address any comments. And then we will come back to council on July 15th and hopefully get the proposed plan approved prior to submitting to HUD. So that gives you a general background of what the consolidated plan and annual action plans are, where we are in the process. Overall, I would say that the city intends to fund similar activities as past years and has similar goals, but has expanded on some of those ideas. So you all may remember the city created a neighborhood revitalization strategy area, which encompasses the core part of downtown North Las Vegas. And so by creating that specific area, they're allowed to use CDBG and ESG funds, CDBG funds only in a more flexible way. So part of the goal for the next 5 years is to continue supporting services for low-income residents within that neighborhood revitalization strategy area. Another goal for the next 5 years is to expand and support public services for all low-income residents throughout the city. Another goal is to improve and construct community facilities and infrastructure. And then a few new goals this planning period, thinking about how to address the changing economic needs given COVID, is to expand economic and business opportunities. This year, that's going to look like small business assistance, and the city is going to continue to look at other ways to address changing economic needs. And then finally, to create and preserve affordable housing. As we know, that's going to be more important than ever. So that gives you an idea of where the city is going. I mentioned that a lot of these activities that will actually be funded has already gone to council. The other remaining activities are really those capital improvement activities that were identified through the capital improvement plan, as well as feedback from the community. So with all of that, I'm happy to take any specific questions on the plan, on community input, or whatever may arise.
One presentation. I'm sorry. Any comments or questions? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were past that. Okay.
I am. Apologies. Mayor, Council, this is Rick Damian. I wanted to also include that going forward in January, we're going to include the council and as a stakeholder in identifying priorities and goals of the con plan and the annual action plan, and so as to align the various plans with the city's master mission, so that we're in alignment with the priorities and goals of the mission to be included in these plans going forward. So I thought that was a point to note going forward, that council will be included in these discussions.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate you. On this presentation, Maggie, Rick, are you guys done now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm gonna. Madam City Clerk, do we have anybody on public hearing on this item?
Mayor, we have no callers and no written comment.
Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing on this, and I have one question. Maggie, is it, you said emergency solutions grant? My paperwork says emergency shelter grant. Are they both the same thing, or what?
They are the same thing. I'm going to guess that is just a typo. It's the Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG. So that program is a federal program that is actually used mostly for shelters, but overall it funds activities to support people who are experiencing homelessness. So in general, it goes towards either public services or shelters.
Okay, thank you very much. Council, any comments? I'm going to say something here in a minute, but Council, do you have any comments or questions that you'd like to ask these presenters?
Mayor, I do have a question.
Mayor?
Okay, Councilwoman?
Just like with the support activities through planning, I'm talking about affordable housing. Do we have a clear definition of what that actually looks like? What's considered affordable? I guess that's my question. And how's that defined?
Councilwoman, Mayor, Council, affordable housing, depending on the grant, is defined at either 80% of the area median income, or both home grants, which primarily is to create new housing in the city, and CDBG, which we've only now introduced creating new housing through CDBG through acquisition and rehabilitation, and that's also at 80% of the area median income. And not to get into the weeds with all the various formulas, when we invest in multifamily new construction under the various grants, typically multifamily of 5 units or more target a lower AMI of 50% AMI, and then of course when you go through bonds and tax credits and all that other type of financing, then it drops to a mix of 30, 50, and 80%, and in some cases unrestricted market. So there are definitely distinctions between the grants and how to apply them depending on the projects.
Okay, thank you. There was a list that came out with some affordable housing areas valley-wide, but it was more so just a waiting list. We included in that group, well, I know, like I saw Rose Gardens on there, but those are kind of examples of what we mean as well. Even though it's a waiting list, very long waiting list.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the list, Councilwoman. Being that Rose Garden was part of that list, I'm not sure who compiled that list. You know, for what we do, we're not land bankers or we're not a land trust to acquire land and hold it or land bank it for development. But I definitely like to take a look at what that list is in context of what it's showing or what it's supposed to show.
Okay, I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
Councilman Barone?
Thank you, Mayor. This is either from Andrea or Rick. In effect, what we're doing here allows the city to have a lot more flexibility and where we want to invest our CDBG funds in the future. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nick.
So specifically in the NRSA, there is a lot more flexibility. So in the current CDBG program, jurisdictions are only allowed to spend 15% of that allocation on public services. And so the remaining amount of CDBG has to go to public infrastructure, public facilities, or affordable housing. Given that, there is such a large need for public services, creating that NRSA takes off that cap, and you could essentially fund anything within that area, without any restriction. So if the city felt like there was a need to just focus on public services in the NRSA, you would spend all of those funds in the NRSA just on that. So that's the flexibility that I mentioned.
And one other thing I'd like to mention, Mayor and Council, is that historically in the last probably decade, we've really had two avenues of direction for CDBG. It was either public services, where you're funding shelters and senior apartment programs and Meals on Wheels, et cetera. And the other direction was capital improvement projects through our public works. But this next 5-year cycle, we've included not just public service, but also economic development, funding micro enterprises, and also housing, which was never really done in CDBG. So what we're trying to do is make our con plan so flexible and build up much of the activities so that if the city desires or identifies a focus or a priority, that we more readily are able to adapt to that need and move forward without having to go through HUD and having to go through amendments and public comments and all of that. We're ready. And so for the first time ever, we've really have, with the aid of MESI and root policy, we built this con plan to be so flexible that we can go pretty much in any direction depending on our shared mission.
Fantastic.
I just wanted to add one more thing, which is that the consolidated plan, sets out the 5-year plan, and the annual action plan gets more into that detail. And so really the activities that are identified are just the 1-year activities in the annual action plan. And then each year you kind of go back to the drawing table and figure out what exactly you will fund. So each year the city will have the opportunity to kind of reevaluate what they have funded in the past, and if there are any additional needs that need to be addressed. So like Rick said, the existing consolidated plan is set up to allow those flexibilities in year 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Thank you. Council, any other comments or questions?
Mayor Lee, this is Councilman Black.
Yes, sir.
I believe the waiting list that Councilwoman Goins-Brown is referring to is from the Southern Nevada Regional Housing Authority. They recently reopened their waiting list for housing choice voucher and public housing, and that includes Rose Garden, which are senior housing choice voucher holders. And so I believe that's the waiting list that she was referring to.
Correct.
Okay. So you can learn more about that, Rick, from the Housing Authority.
Copy that, Councilman. Appreciate the info.
You bet.
Council, any more comments or questions for this panel? Thank you very much. I'd like to maybe just ask something here real quick. Pam, you seem to be somebody that's very interested in following this with everything else that's going on with HUD, and you seem to be our expert in that area. Would you mind if this wonderful group would come to you now and then and set up meetings, and you could go over stuff, and then as we have questions, we could talk to you about it, or Rick or Mark or somebody, but would you take the lead on this? We all kind of take the lead on different things. Can you spend a little bit more time with this organization and what's happening in this arena?
Yeah, that's already in progress, Mayor.
Okay, I appreciate that, because it is very, very important, and they need to have somebody they can go talk to. You know what I mean? They can teach and train and continue to move forward with us, and I appreciate you that, Pam. So, guys, when you're getting ready to come see us next time, make sure you go see Pam first and make sure she understands what we're doing, and talk to city manager, and then we'll all be better prepared. Okay?
We can do that.
Sounds good, Mayor. We'll do.
Thank you very much, and you'll find her to be a very fast student. So I'm going to now tell you we need no motion for this item. We will just accept this presentation. And Ms. Tempore, we appreciate you, Rick, always you, for experience and knowledge that you always have on these situations, and thank you very much. Mark, to you too. Moving on to ordinances, introduction only.
Item 22, introduce ordinance number 3016, extending corporate limits of the city of North Las Vegas, annexing a parcel of land generally located in the northeast corner of Sloan Lane and County Wells Avenue. Petitioner represents 100% of the area proposed for annexation and provide other matters properly related to that.
Thank you very much. Moving on to appointments. Councilman Black.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Lee. I first wanted to just express my gratitude to you, Mayor Lee, for giving me the privilege and opportunity to be the Mayor Pro Tem for this past year. It's been a really unique experience, something that I thoroughly enjoyed. I've learned quite a bit, and I'm thankful that you had the trust in me to allow me to do that. And at this time, I would like to make a motion to appoint one of my colleagues on the council to be the Mayor Pro Tem for the next year. Councilman Isaac Barone is a fierce advocate for North Las Vegas. He loves our city probably more than anyone I know, and he works very, very diligently for his ward and for the Latino and Hispanic people that live in our community, but he also kind of has a global view of things and immerses himself in matters of importance, and so I have tremendous respect. I've learned a lot from Councilman Barone in the 3 years that I've been on the council, and I would like to enthusiastically motion to appoint him to be the Mayor Pro Tem for the next year.
Thank you very much. Councilman Barone, you've been nominated. Would you accept that if we voted?
I'm honored. I'm so a little bit shocked, but yeah, I'm honored. Mayor, we grew up just you and I both grew up within just a stone's throw of City Hall. Maybe slightly different era, just a little bit, a slightly different era. But if I were to slash my vein, the blood would come out Las Vegas blue, and there'd be some orange and some yellow, just like our flag. It's a big honor, and I'll do my best, to fulfill that largely ceremonial, but to me in my heart, quite honorable. Thank you very much, Scott. I really do appreciate it, Councilman.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
So So Councilman Black has made a motion to appoint Councilman Barone as Mayor Pro Tem. Any other comments or questions? If not, I think we have the motion from Scott. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take a vote. Aye.
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 It's unanimous. Congratulations. And once again, former Mayor Pro Tem, you did a great job for us, and we appreciate you. There's other great leaders that are standing right behind you, ready to be the Mayor Pro Tem, and I appreciate them all. Item 24.
Item number 24, although I will say I thought that Councilman Barone had green Rancho blood. I heard him say that.
Oh, yeah.
I guess he doesn't anymore. Item number 24, appoint city council member to the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance Executive Committee for a one-year term ending June 30th, 2021.
So at this time, I have been the Las Vegas. Oh, go ahead, Councilwoman.
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. I got a turn.
No, that's fine. I said I have been the member of the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance Executive Committee. I've had a great opportunity to rub shoulders with other people making decisions, what's going on with this valley. They've plugged into our staff up here at the highest level. They continue to come forth and meet with Gina and her team. It's really gotten a lot better. I'd like a chance, if possible, to continue, but I'll leave that up to the council.
Mayor, in that case, I'd like to now chime in if you don't mind. Mayor, I've been, of course, a member of that board, and although I felt like I think I did okay when I was there. There's no one that moves amongst all those regional players the way that you do. There's no one who can walk the walk and speak the speak the way. And I've noticed that in the past few months that we seem to have a tighter relationship with them, and I think a lot of it has to do because, frankly, of your leadership and keeping things balanced out with them. And if our relationship has gotten that much better in just, over the last year, I think it could only grow by keeping you in that position. And so I'd like to make the motion to keep you then as our representative on that really important regional board.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We'll see how everybody else feels here. So the chair will call for a motion to continue Mayor Lee as the Global Economics Alliance Executive Committee for one more term, ending June 30th, 2021. All those in favor say aye.
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 Appreciate you guys. It's a lot of work, but it is valuable for our community. I accept it, and I'm very happy to serve with you. Moving on to City Manager's report.
Mayor and Council, I really don't have anything to report at this time. I just want to thank staff for their continued efforts in keeping the community safe, keeping visitors to City Hall safe, and keeping each other safe. We've been kind of steadily, Councilman Black pointed out on a policy call a couple weeks ago, that we've kind of been about a week ahead or 2 weeks ahead of everything. So we started mask policy at City Hall for all visitors and for everyone working here. And we were doing that a week before the governor's latest executive order to do the same. So we kind of got a head start on that. I think people are adapting to it well, being conscientious of each other and making sure that we stay healthy. We continue to navigate through this. I want to thank the team. There's a lot of work that goes into making sure that we're nimble and responsive to the changes that are happening out there. So I just want to thank them, thank all of you for your support. We have a lot more conversations, a lot more frequent texts and calls and everything back and forth as we navigate through this. I just want to thank you all. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but with that, that's my report for this evening.
Thank you very much. It's a very positive report. Moving on to public forum. Now is the time set aside for the public to speak on issues that were not posted on the agenda. Remember, the council can hear these items, but we cannot take action upon them and any items raised during this public forum, or we would put it on the agenda if we need to, if it becomes that type of an issue. So, Madam City Clerk, are there any written comments or callers waiting to talk to the City Council?
Mayor, we have none.
Thank you very much. We'll close the public forum, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.